A lot of the folks in ATIP experienced very similar things. It was witnessed by friends, neighbors. Um, what the connection is, I can't tell you for sure. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. And But we experienced, my family, my kids, my wife, some neighbors saw these green little diffuse balls of light, luminous balls of light. Think of a like a think of a volleyball, but without hard edges, right? Floating through the house. Uh, you can call them an orb, I guess. You can call them, maybe some sort of drone or remote operated vehicle. I've never seen anything like it. But I guess some people describe it as like ball lightning, maybe. But a diffuse green orb ball just hover right down the hall and disappear right through a wall. Um, what, if any, the connection is to the UAP? I don't know.
Luis Elizondo's new book, Imminent, is just about to be released, and the Daily Mail out of the UK has released the very first video interview with Luis Elizondo in years about his new book, Imminent. And in today's video, I'm going to play that interview for you. Now, don't forget, I've also covered other parts of Luis Elizondo's book, Imminent, which was released in a preview, and I made some videos about that. You'll find the links in the description. Now, stay tuned to the end because I've got a special surprise from Ross Coulthart and Bryce Zabel. On a recent episode of their podcast, Need to Know, they spoke about another interview that's coming up with Luis Elizondo on News Nation, so I've got some details for you there. And without further ado, let's jump into this clip from the Daily Mail about Luis Elizondo's new book, Imminent.
I remember distinctly a conversation I had with Dr. Lakatsky during the early time when he was, I think, assessing me is probably what they were doing, see if I would be a good fit. And I remember him very distinctly at the end of the conversation. He pulled his glasses down and he looked over his glasses at me and he said, "What do you think about UFOs?" And I paused for a moment and I responded truthfully. I said, "I don't." And he said, "Well, do you not believe in them?" And I said, "No, I didn't say that. You asked me if I thought about what do I think about UFOs, and I said I don't. I don't have the luxury to think about them. I'm too busy, you know, trying to chase bad guys and make things work." And he said to me, he said, "Well, that's fair enough, but don't let your own personal bias get the best of you, because what you may learn here, may challenge any preconceived notions or narratives that you have." And that's really when I first learned what this program was about. We were getting multiple reports, a lot of reports of UAP. We call them UAP now, but in the vernacular, UFOs were being encountered over controlled U.S. airspace and theaters of combat, and were posing, in some cases, a flight safety risk to our pilots. Now, what do I mean by that? So we have reports and videos, in some cases, of these UAP, UFOs, splitting a combat formation. Now, if you know what a combat formation is, these aircraft fly very close to each other in a combat scenario, right? So they're like this. When you have a UAP splitting the formation, that's problematic. Furthermore, we have countless reports of these things being encountered over controlled U.S. airspace, over sensitive military facilities and installations, and we had no idea where these things were from. The origin, we had no clue. Their performance characteristics were stunning. These were beyond next generation technology. These were things that could perform in ways that outperformed anything that we had in our inventory, and we were pretty sure outperformed anything that our adversaries had. We were getting these routine pleas, these cries from the field. In fact, I remember one email very specifically where one of the senior people in the fleet, a very senior officer, basically said, "Look, these things are all over the ship. I don't know what to tell you. I can't keep people below deck forever and keep this a secret. What do you want me to do?" We keep telling them, "Look, the cavalry's coming. We've got these plans in place to help you out." And every time we would want to get this briefed up to a higher level, we were being basically stovepiped and then cut off. We actually had at one point if you will, a trap set up to collect information on these UAP. I can only talk about it because I've now had approval by the Pentagon to talk about it. It has now been cleared for me to talk about it. But we had a plan to set up a real big nuclear footprint, something we knew would be irresistible for these UAP, and then once we started seeing these UAP, with the trap would be sprung. Congress is being briefed fairly routinely by whistleblowers. Some of them have not been made public yet. New whistleblowers are ready to come out, provided they had the right legal protection. Oh, we were told by the people who had the material. I mean, it's kind of when they sit there and say, "Yeah, look, we're happy to have this conversation with you. There's some things that you're going to need to do if you want, more access to it. But yeah, we're happy to give this stuff to you." That's a big deal. That's kind of I'm careful what I say here, but that's a holy cow moment, right? But you could probably put some expletives in there if you wanted to. That's a seismic revelation. Then, of course, then you have the material science and analysis that's been done on some of this material, which, look, despite what some people say now, like, oh, well, this was a missile casing from the 1950s. I know for a fact because I had a member, and I'm not going to say which company, but let's just say one of the most elite aerospace corporations in the world do analysis on it. And I can tell you that what they came to a conclusion with, and after they actually was able to manufacture at a macro, very crude level, at over $1 million and broke the machine in the process, we know conclusively this was not technology that was manufactured in the 1950s by some sort of missile company. Look, if you look at it temporally and say, well, maybe the Russians have that technology now. Okay, sure. Let's suspend reality and say they do. But they didn't in the late 1940s. And so that would be like walking into King Tut's tomb and, Carter finding a fully assembled 747. I think it's pretty clear that when you first see Trump being asked about the topic, he said, yeah, I don't particularly believe it. But interestingly, the next time he was asked, he's like, hey, there's something there. There's something to it, right? There were some very peculiar incidents that occurred simultaneously while I was involved in the ATIP portfolio. And I'll tell you, it wasn't just me. A lot of the folks in ATIP experienced very similar things. It was witnessed by friends, neighbors. Uh, what the connection is, I can't tell you for sure. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. And but we experienced, my family, my kids, my wife, some neighbors saw these green little diffuse balls of light, luminous balls of light. Think of a volleyball, but without hard edges, right? Floating through the house. Uh, you can call them an orb, I guess. You can call them, maybe some sort of drone or remote operated vehicle. I've never seen anything like it. But like, I guess some people describe it as like ball lightning, maybe. But a diffuse green orb ball just hover right down the hall and disappear right through a wall. Um, what, if any, the connection is to the UAP? I don't know. I'm just reporting it in the book so people know, right? If you're going to be transparent, you got to be as transparent as you can to include even in your own life, and even if it makes you look kind of crazy, that's what happened. If it was just me, maybe I wouldn't have written about it. But the fact that it happened to other colleagues of mine that were in ATIP, I wanted to share that experience. And again, is there a congruency? Is there a relationship between the two? I don't know. Some people speculate that there is. Maybe it's a small reconnaissance drone or UAP that's they're interested in our weapon systems. Well, they're obviously interested maybe in the people who are looking into them. I don't know. I can't. I don't want to speculate too much because I simply don't have enough information or data. I have my opinion, but at the end of the day, my opinion doesn't really matter. If it was just me that saw these things, I probably again wouldn't have said anything. But the fact is, my whole family saw them. And other members in ATIP experience this same thing as well. So, what the relationship is, I absolutely could not tell you, but it was very perplexing.
Now, I've got two other parts of this Daily Mail article that aren't included in the video interview portion. Part number one. While serving with the U.S. Army in Kuwait in 2003, Elizondo said he had an inexplicable experience. Military police told him a Bedouin goat herder saw a brilliant green flash over tanks stationed at the remote desert base of Arjafan one night. When Elizondo came to investigate, they showed him a heavily armored M1 battle tank designed to withstand a direct missile hit, with a small hole punched through the armored side that was perfectly round, no rough edges. The tank next to it showed precisely the same sabotage, Elizondo wrote. Whatever caused this seemed to penetrate the sides of two of our best tanks with one clean hole through both. It was as if someone had used a super sharp cookie cutter to take a core sample of the vehicle. The energy required to do such a thing would have been enormous. Now, another great part of the article. Elizondo and fellow ATIP member Jay Stratton hatched a plan in 2015 to catch a UFO. He told DailyMail.com that their investigations pointed to these craft having an apparent interest in military operations, nuclear power, and were often seen around bodies of water. So they coordinated with the Navy and other branches to create Project Interloper, an attempt to lure these mysterious craft and record them with high-tech equipment. You take a nuclear carrier strike group, a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, you have a nuclear-powered submarine and other nuclear equities in the area, and you put it on the water, he told DailyMail.com. So you have the military, nuclear, and water nexus. We were very, very confident we were going to get UAP encounters because we had them all the time. That's what they were attracted to, like flies to flypaper. The idea was to gather warships in the ocean, focusing their radar, sonar, and cameras where they believed the UFOs would appear. There was an official plan that had support. It got briefed all the way to the Joint Staff, Elizondo said. We had a lot of interest from the intelligence community. A lot of agencies were part of this. They were ready to put their effort and assets into it. And at the last minute, it got denied. And according to the article, Luis Elizondo right now is in between contracting for Space Force as he did last year. Elizondo is working as part of an effort to persuade lawmakers to add new protections for more whistleblowers to come forward. Now, on top of this interview he did with the Daily Mail, Luis Elizondo also did an interview with the New York Times, but there was no video interview included with that. But Ross Coulthart and Bryce Zabel have a little surprise for you. Let's take a look.
You know, I've just been in the United States, and I'm sure we can talk about why I've been in the United States. What I can reveal, I think this is the first time I'm able to speak about it publicly, is that I have recorded the first major television interview with Lou Elizondo since the book Imminent was published. And he will be appearing on Banfield, News Nation, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, next Friday the 23rd. And you're going to see a slow rollout of some of what Lou's told me over the next week.
So there you go. We've got a bunch of interviews coming out with Luis Elizondo on News Nation, two of them specifically. The one with Ross Coulthart, let's be real, they've probably been working on it for months, right, putting this together. And this is going to be exciting, right? Expect a kind of a windfall of interviews with Luis Elizondo. Again, video interviews he hasn't done in years. So the Daily Mail one I played today is literally the first one in years that he's done. So interesting. So, you know, will he be on Rogan? I don't know. All right, I think that's the big question. Will Luis Elizondo go on Rogan? What other big interviews, right, will he do? The Ross Coulthart one will get a lot of attention. And, of course, I'll be looking forward to all of these interviews and covering them on the show. And don't forget, pre-order Luis Elizondo's book, Imminent, now. Some people are already getting it in other countries. So that's what's floating around on Twitter. So some people are already getting copies of the book, so expect more to come out. So anyway, all right, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the video. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's. Remember, every day's a gift. Peace!
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.